To the surprise of no one, Google CEO says that 2025 for the company is all about AI. Welcome back to the AI Daily Brief Headlines Edition, all the daily AI news you need in around 5 minutes. This is the first episode of 2025, of course, and I had planned on using the chance to catch up on all the news that had happened over the past couple weeks, but really there has been very little. It was clearly a good time to go on break. Still, there were a few interesting things, and that's what we're going to be covering today, starting with the fact that Google CEO Sundar Pichai has made it clear that AI is the company's focus in what is a crucial year. CNBC has obtained leaked audio of a strategy meeting held the week before Christmas, reportedly complete with ugly holiday sweaters. Pichai told staff, quote, "I think 2025 will be critical. I think it's really important we internalize the urgency of this moment and need to move faster as a company. The stakes are high. These are disruptive moments. In 2025, we need to be relentlessly focused on unlocking the benefits of this technology and solve real user problems." Google is also in a challenging moment. They are in the midst of multiple antitrust lawsuits, with US courts having already ruled that the company maintains a monopoly over search, with another ruling on their advertising business expected early this year. The DOJ has requested an order that the company divest of their Chrome browser division. Meanwhile, the British competition watchdog has issued a statement of objections over Google's ad tech practices. The regulator made a provisional finding that Google was impacting competition in the UK. Pichai said, "It's not lost on me that we are facing scrutiny across the world. It comes with our size and success. It's part of a broader trend where tech is now impacting society at scale. So more than ever through this moment, we have to make sure we don't get distracted." Pichai said that Google needs to focus on building, quote, "big new businesses" as a top priority. Their AI platform Gemini was the number one candidate, with executives stating it could be the next Google app to hit 500 million users. 15 Google apps have hit that milestone over the years. Pichai said, "With the Gemini app, there is strong momentum, particularly over the last few months. But we have some work to do in 2025 to close the gap and establish a leadership position there as well. Scaling Gemini on the consumer side will be our biggest focus next year." At that meeting, the CEO showed a chart of Gemini's competition, with OpenAI's ChatGPT the number one rival. Pichai acknowledged that Google had to play catch-up, stating, "In history, you don't always need to be first, but you have to execute well and really be best in class as a product. I think that's what 2025 is all about." The executive team took questions from staff, with one employee noting that branding is one of the major challenges. They recognize that ChatGPT is becoming synonymous to AI the same way Google is to search. DeepMind co-founder Demis Hassabis stepped in to respond, pledging to, quote, "turbocharge the Gemini app." He suggested that AI products are going to, quote, "evolve massively over the next year or two." Hassabis described his goal of building a universal assistant that can, quote, "seamlessly operate over any domain, any modality, or any device." Responding to another question, Hassabis said that they had no plans to offer ultra-premium $200 subscriptions as OpenAI have done. Throughout the presentation, Pichai referred to the need to, quote, "stay scrappy." This seems to be an acknowledgement that the CEO was asking employees to do more with less, given that Google's headcount is down 5% since 2022. He said, "In early Google days, you look at how the founders built our data centers. They were really, really scrappy in every decision they made. Often constraints led to creativity. Not all problems are always solved by headcount." So ultimately, none of this is particularly surprising, but still really interesting to hear directly how they are thinking about this particular set of issues. Next up, X.AI joins the long list of AI companies failing to ship their latest frontier model. Over the summer, Elon Musk said that Grok 3 would arrive by the end of 2024. He posted Grok 3 end of year after training on 100,000 H100 should be really something special. Grok 3 will be the first model trained on the Colossus supercluster and could well be the first in the world trained on a cluster of that size. It was intended to rival OpenAI's GPT-4o and Google's Gemini 2.0 Flash, being the first X.AI model to truly compete on the bleeding edge. Aside from missing the release schedule, it also seems that Grok 3 won't even be the next model rolled out by X.AI. Tibor Blaho picked up a snippet of code suggesting that Grok 2.5 will be coming soon. Now, ultimately, this is less interesting to people as some sort of indicator of particular challenges at X.AI or anything like that, and more just that it continues the pattern of setbacks with flagship models that's become normal over the last few months. Some are going so far as to speculate that Grok 3 may have proven that scaling laws have hit a wall. Until very recently, the logic was that throwing more data and more compute at a training run would yield more performant models. As the first company publicly known to have an operational training cluster with 100,000 GPUs, X.AI may be in the midst of demonstrating that the way we thought about scaling before might just not be holding up. Then again, it could be that Elon was talking out of turn when he said that it was going to come this year, and that this is nothing more than the difficulties of shipping with a small team. Another big theme we anticipate for 2025 is competition from China. Chinese AI startup DeepSea has released their new ultra-large model, DeepSeek V3. The model is open source and fully available on Hugging Face. According to benchmarks performed by DeepSeek, This latest model is outperforming Meta's Frontier Llama 3.1 405B. It's also pretty close to the performance of leading models from OpenAI and Anthropic. DeepSeek's model has 671 billion parameters, but uses novel architecture to cut down on inference costs. Rather than engaging the entire model, it uses what's called a mixture of experts architecture to only activate certain parameters as needed. DeepSeek claims to have used multiple hardware and algorithmic optimizations during their training run. This led to a total cost of around $5.5 million for training, which if true would be a fraction of the amount spent by Western rivals. Still, there is a little bit of skepticism around the new announcement. Lucas Bayer, a researcher at OpenAI, found that DeepSeek v3 claims to be ChatGPT 4 in 5 out of 8 responses, suggesting the model's extremely large training dataset was generated using ChatGPT. Sam Altman also seemed to take a veiled swipe at the Chinese lab, posting, "It is relatively easy to copy something that you know works. It's extremely hard to do something new, risky, and difficult when you don't know if it will work. Individual researchers rightly get a lot of glory for what they do. It's the coolest thing in the world." Still, at a certain point, all that matters is the results. Didi Das of Menlo Ventures took the new model for a spin, posting, "Started a project to scrape executive compensation for 10,000 public companies from the SEC. Wrote the scraper code fully on Claude, but each filing has a custom format. So I piped it all into DeepSeek v3 to extract structure. Parsed 6 million tokens so far, and it cost 50 cents. New era." Finally today, speaking of a new era, as America prepares for a new administration in the White House, Meta is getting ahead of the move with a new policy lead. President of Global Affairs Nick Clegg has stepped down after 6 years in the role. He will be replaced by one of the company's most prominent Republican executives, Joel Kaplan. Prior to joining Meta, Kaplan served as the White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy in the George W. Bush administration. In a post explaining the end of his tenure, Clegg said that Kaplan, quote, "is quite clearly the right person for the right job at the right time." That, however, is going to do it for today's AI Daily Brief Headlines edition. Next up, the main episode.